Have you ever felt the sting of being overlooked, ignored, or just flat out rejected in conversation? It makes you feel invisible, yet some people seem to effortlessly sway opinions and command attention wherever they go. A few years ago, I felt the pain of rejection more than ever before. I had spent 3 months pitching over 100 investors in my startup, only to get rejected time after time. And yet, just a short while later, I found myself raising over $21 million from some of the world's best investors, and even rejecting many of the same investors that had once rejected me. So what changed? What did I learn that helped me instantly win the hearts and minds of anyone I was meeting with in just a few minutes? Well, what I've learned from playing the game at the highest level is there are deep, hardwired, neurological responses that you can instantly tap into to win someone over. These are the same secrets that politicians, global CEOs, and celebrities use to bend our will to their desires. And whether it's business, love, or really any facet of life, learning these techniques can instantly turn the tide in your favor. See, what I've learned from pitching many of the world's greatest investors is that actually any meeting is won or lost within the first 2 minutes. In those first 2 minutes, the person on the other side of the room has already made their decision. And if it's a 30-minute meeting or an hour-long meeting, they're just spending the rest of the time deciding if they want to stick with that decision or if you give them reasons to change their mind. The reason for this is something called frame control. Now, frame control, even if you're not aware of it, it's something that is governing your life every single moment of the day. These frames are the way that we view situations or conversations. So every interaction, every moment of your life, you are not seeing it as it is. You're not seeing the exact unadulterated facts. You are seeing it through a specific perspective or a certain frame. So in any conversation, any meeting, both sides are looking through the same frame, and that is how they are interpreting what happens actually inside the event. And once you realize this, you can start to actually objectively look at what frames are actually controlling the interactions that you are in. For example, when I'm pitching investors, I know the frame that they're walking in with. They meet with usually 1,000, maybe 2,000 companies a year, and they invest in 1 to 2. So the default frame is, I'm this wealthy investor, I meet with all these companies, only 1 or 2 impress me. I'm gonna sit here, listen to this pitch, they're gonna do their best, they're gonna basically beg me for money. I'm the investor, I hold all the cards, but I'm not gonna give in. This is probably not gonna be the one. And so by default, their operating mode is basically rejection. They're gonna say no. This also applies to, first dates. Lots of people go on first dates and don't get the second date. And so this frame starts to naturally just happen when you have a first date. And often it's the girl. Women generally hold more power in these first date relationships by the default frame. They're in this sort of assumption that they are vetting the other person to see, is this person going to be worthy of my second date? That's kind of the natural frame. And these natural frames become patterns. And patterns often control way more of our life than we realize. One of these things that happens to me all the time is I'll go to the bathroom and I will accidentally brush my teeth if it's late at night, just because I'm used to that pattern. It's an established routine in my life. And so if we want to actually establish a new frame for any given meeting or conversation, we need to first break the existing pattern by doing something new, by doing something unexpected, and then set the grounds for a new frame that we're both gonna agree. And generally, the person that is establishing the dynamic of the meeting, establishing the agenda or the way something will go, is often the person that actually controls the frame. So how you apply this is, in the first 2 minutes of any interaction, you want to take charge of the interaction. I don't care if it's an investor meeting, a first date, or even an interview. Let's take the interview example. The typical pattern, the typical frame that you might have for an interview is you're going in, there's tons of applicants, they're gonna sort of vet you, ask you a bunch of questions, and then you'll answer and they'll see if they like you or not. I would rather go in and in the first 2 minutes of the meeting, I might say, hey, so-and-so, listen, great to meet with you. Excited to learn more about this role, how you think the career path for this role might look, what your expectations are for the role, and what someone who is applying for the role could expect once they join. Now it's like you're interviewing them almost, and you don't do this in a cocky way, in a way that is like way over the top. What you're establishing is a new frame that, one, just jars and breaks up their pattern so they don't fall into the same rut, but also it's now like you are the one vetting this conversation. And generally speaking, the one who is the one with options, the one who is deciding whether or not they want to pursue the other side of the table's choices or actions is the one in power and is the one that is more likely to get the outcome they want. So if it's a first date, you're not going saying, gee, I hope I get a second date. You're going in saying, my time is valuable. My time is worth so much. And I want to get to know the other person on the side of the table and see if it's something worth investing in for me. By establishing the frame, you basically win the conversation early on, and then you can spend the rest of the time just deciding if it's worth pursuing. So next time you go into a meeting, next time you go into something, think about the frame and how you can change it. Now, once you're in the conversation, there are many, many sneaky tricks you can do. There's this school of thought called NLP, stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It was invented by psychologists, and it basically allows you to use conversational hypnosis to convince and persuade people to like you, to follow you, to do what you are wanting to do almost effortlessly. And these are hardwired neurological principles. So the person on the other side of the room won't even know what's going on. And you can do this, in line at Starbucks or in a meeting, it doesn't matter. The 3 principles that I've found most effective are what's called matching, mirroring, and leading. So let's talk about matching and mirroring, because those are kind of hand in hand. Matching and mirroring takes on this concept that we like things that are like us. If you drive that purple minivan and you see someone else in a purple minivan, you automatically think, I like this guy. He's driving the same crazy purple minivan as me. When we find people that think like us, that act like us, that behave like us, we are naturally drawn towards them. It would be impossible for us not to like them, because by doing that, we would actually be disassociating ourselves from liking ourselves. So it's hardwired into us that we like things that are similar to us. And so because of this, you can take advantage of this in any meeting. What you want to do is start to notice the body language that the person is using. Are they leaning forward? Are they leaning back? Are they, shifting on one side? Are they shifting on the other side? Are they crossing their arms? Are they open? Are they closed? What's actually going on in their body language? And what you start to do is you start to match them. So if they are crossing their arms, you might cross your arms. If they're leaning on one hand, you might lean on one hand. You don't do it so automatic. So they cross your arms, you cross your arms, they do this, you do this. That starts to get weird. But what you're doing is you're following similar patterns of body language that they have. And by doing this, they will naturally start to like you more. One thing that you also want to pay attention to is the direction of someone's chest and their feet. So you see, in conversation like we're having now, my chest is directly facing you. Hopefully your chest is facing mine, so we're sort of like locked on. What can sometimes happen in conversations is you might find someone talking more like this, where, their head is sort of turned towards you, but their chest and their feet are pointing other directions. Or, maybe they're looking this way. What you want to do is be conscious of basically how much of their center line are they giving you. That's where you really want to match it. What you don't want is someone sort of talking over the shoulder like this to you. They're giving you attention, but it's over the shoulder and their center line is pointed here and you're pointing here. What that is it's reestablishing a frame earlier that we talked about, which is you're kind of begging and leaning into them. So what I want to do is I want to match their center line with mine. And so if they're leaning over like this, I'm leaning over like this. If they're locked in, I can even be a little more out so that it establishes that dynamic where they're really leaning into me. And now along with this, we also want to match their tone and energy level. You see, if someone comes in and they're big and boisterous and loud and fun like this, and we're so mellow, we're so chill, there's a natural disconnect there. We're not going to be on the same page and we're not going to be able to find common ground and move things forward. But if they're super mellow, maybe you want to be a little bit more mellow too. You want to relax a little bit. Try to meet them where their energy level is, at least at the start of the interaction. Now, once you're matching and mirroring, what you want to start to do is actually to lead. You see, if they're super mellow, if they're super calm and everything, that might not be ideal for the situation you're in. You might need them to be excited, them to be pumped up. And so you start super mellow, and over time you get a little bit more excited and a little bit more excited. If you're matching and mirroring them, they will actually become more excited with you. Because again, they're trying to stay congruent now that you're like. This is the same for body language. If they're to the side, you're to the side, but you slowly start to turn in, start to gesture, start to move in. And over time, hey, look, they're starting to turn towards you too. So it's this matching, mirroring, and then leading. And you're consciously leading them to where is most effective for the result that you're looking for. If you wanted someone to say no to a proposal, you could even start to, slowly move away and close down and lead them to a closed body language, and they might actually say no. So it doesn't always have to be getting to yes, but using these principles, you can really start to shift the dynamic, and it's so subconscious. I know it sounds maybe a little cringy, a little weird, but learn to practice these things. Try it with friends, try it in low stakes environments, and you'll find that people start to like you more, people start to engage with you, and this is how you build your powers of persuasion. Now, the third principle we're going to use to persuade people is the power of in-charge body language. And everyone knows the stats on how like verbal communication is only some super small percentage, but the nonverbals, the body language and everything else, that's how we really communicate. But how do you actually put that into practice? Is it just waving your hands and moving around? No. Here's the secret. You want to be deliberate with your body language and make sure that you're taking advantage of these hardwired neurological responses that we just cannot help. Now, there's a few that I really like to take advantage of. First is taking up space. In the alpha, beta, animal kingdom and things like that, what you will find is that the more beta an animal is, the more low social status they are, they tend to be small. Not physically, but they make themselves small. They don't want to take up much space. They'll cross their arms, they'll come in, they'll protect their chest, their vital areas. They are constantly worried about threats and constantly worried about being attacked by the other animals, the alpha males of the society or whatever. The alphas, on the other hand, take up space. They don't have to protect vital points. They're not constantly worried. They don't believe that their space is just, right in front of them. The whole desk is theirs. So if they want to stretch out, relax, they can move around. It's not a big deal when you're in control. So the first tip is just to learn to take up space. Spread out, open your arms up. If you're in a meeting, be relaxed, be at ease, don't be closed off. Along with that, one of the things you might want to learn to do is show palms of your hands. Showing the back of your hand can be submissive, whereas if you're relaxed, sort of open like this, it's a sign of power. You're not trying to hide anything. It's open palm and it conveys status, it conveys power, which is so important in these dynamics. And then the final tip that you want to have is the way that you align your chest and your pelvis. In this video, because I'm really trying to pour wisdom and knowledge into you, I'm trying to teach you and share something, you'll notice that my torso is actually in front of my pelvis. I'm slightly leaning forward. I'm leaning into the interaction. And I'm doing that very deliberately. I'm trying to actually engage with you and pour into your life. But if you were meeting with me and I was trying to establish a frame of vetting you, of seeing if you're worthy of my time, of seeing if you're worthy of my investment, what I would be doing is I'd actually move forward and my pelvis would be in front of my torso so that I'm actually leaning back. And when I lean back like this, it probably doesn't feel very inviting. You probably don't feel very connected to me, but it's almost like if you were there, you would feel like you are now trying to impress me because I'm leaning back, I'm relaxing, and I'm letting you come to me. Whenever I am in a pitch meeting, whenever I'm in a meeting where the stakes are high, once I've established the frame, I need to make sure that I control and own that frame by making sure that my torso is behind my pelvis just slightly. Don't, lie flat and lounge out, but just that little 2-inch movement makes a massive difference in the social dynamic of an interaction. Now, beyond body language, if you want to master the art of persuasion, you must master the art of the unspoken word. You see, it's often the things that we don't say, that we don't put to words, that actually speak the loudest. And by not saying certain things, but by implying certain things, you will actually be able to make people want to do business with you, make people want to go on that second date, or just go your way. It creates a pull where they are actually coming to you versus you trying to push and get them to do something. So here's how you do it. Whenever you're communicating, whether it's face-to-face, over email, over phone, you want to have very powerful and deliberate phrases that you're going to weave into the conversation. One of the most obvious times to do it is when there are certain questions that are likely to come up in the interaction that you're about to go into, but you can really do it anytime in the conversation. You just want to find a way to weave these phrases in that say little but imply so much more. Now, let me give you a real life example. Let's say you're in an investor meeting. Now, a common question most investors will ask you is, well, how much money are you looking to raise? And if the answer is $500,000, well, then the obvious thing to do would be to say $500,000. This is actually the worst response you can give. What you should say instead is, well, we set out to raise $500,000, but what we've found is that even in our early conversations, we're worried that that $500,000 might fill up a little faster than we expected. And some of the larger investors that we're meeting with are really pushing us to consider raising that to maybe $1.5 or $2 million, because that's just what makes sense for the size of check that they're usually writing. So I don't know, and like, I'm curious, investor, how would you think about that? Now, this carefully worded answer has so many subtle implications in it, but let me just break down 3 things that are happening here. First, I mentioned that we set out to raise $500,000, but it might fill up pretty fast. So there's a sense of momentum here. This investor that I'm speaking with is not the only investor I'm meeting with, and they might miss out. We might fill up $500,000 really quick. Second, there's a sense of FOMO. I mentioned these bigger investors. They could come in and write a $1.5 or $2 million check. That would kick this other investor out. The investor will know that if a large investor comes in, there can't be 2. So again, I'm just driving the FOMO. And the third thing is I've reestablished my frame. Hey, I'm here to vet you. You're not vetting me. So I gave my answer, $500,000, but that might fill up quick. And then we have these big investors that might come in. What do you think we should do? How would you think about it? Now, the investor that asked me a question has to answer kind of the question for themselves and say, here's what you should do. They're giving me advice. And I'm going to vet that advice and say, oh, interesting. Why do you think that way? Why would you not go for the bigger check? Or why do you think we should only do $700,000? What is your experience based on that? What does that tell you? Now see how the dynamic is changing? I'm vetting their question. And so this little judo chess move that I've done here is one of the most powerful things that has helped me raise millions and millions of dollars. You're not lying. You're not manipulating anyone. You're just giving them some things to think about. It's in the implication. And notice it would be way less effective if instead of implying these sort of FOMO things, I actually said, hey, investor, we have lots of investors that want to invest in us, so you better decide soon because you're going to miss out. One, it comes off just kind of like a douche, but also it doesn't have the casual implication, and so it kind of loses effectiveness. It's gone from being a byproduct of our conversation to clearly a tactic that I'm using in this conversation. And once something goes from subconscious to conscious, it doesn't work anymore. The neurological principles just fall apart. It doesn't work. What you want to do is when you're going into conversations or when you're in a conversation, think about the subtle things that you can imply that if the other side realized on a subconscious level, it would drive them towards the result that you're thinking. Secret number 5. I have an absolute diehard belief that you should never, ever leave the site of a meeting empty-handed. You either leave with the result you want, i.e. the sale, the commitment, time for a second date, or you leave with a bulletproof plan to get the desired result that you're looking for. And so to explain this better, I'm gonna use the concept of business. Let's say you're meeting with someone to sell your product. You meet, you pitch them, and they say, hey, this is great. We'll think about it. Absolutely not. That's BS. It's a wishy-washy answer. You need to actually force them to give you a clear action plan that they will follow to get to your desired result. So what you'd want to say in this example is, hey, thanks so much for taking a look at our product. I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. I don't know your process. I don't know your company. So I'm sure you guys look at lots of software all the time. From a meeting like this to ultimately buying the software and implementing it in your company, can you walk me through what those steps look like? Chances are they actually don't know what they look like. Like, this is not something that they've outlined in a document. They don't have clear documentation on how they buy stuff. So you're gonna force your prospect to come up with some answers. And their first answers won't be that good. They might say, well, me and the team think about it. We sort of do like a pros cons list, and then, we kind of make decisions from there. And you say, okay, I get that. When do you and the team meet about it? That sounds like the next step. When do those meetings usually happen? Or how long would it take to schedule? And the prospect might say, well, yeah, I guess, we could probably do it this Thursday. You say, okay, great. I'm going to take notes for myself. So this Thursday, you'll meet with the team and you're going to discuss the pros and cons of our solutions. Who else needs to be there? I'm just curious, who else is involved in this? And they say, well, now that you mention it, I think Jeff from marketing should be there and Suzanne from HR should be there. Oh, and Tony likes to be there too, so we'll probably include Tony. So, okay, great. So those 3 are gonna be there. Is there anything that I need to give you to help have that meeting? And they say, well, you know what? Actually, some case studies would be really helpful. Okay, great. I will send the case studies over to you later this afternoon so that you can meet with those folks on Thursday. What happens next after that meeting? Well, if the meeting goes well, then I guess we'll have to present it to the finance team and we'll need a good proposal by then. Okay. Great. So you're meeting with this team Thursday. When do you think you could have it to the finance team? I guess it'd take about a week. So maybe next Thursday we could present it to them. Great. So this Thursday, you're gonna meet with these people. If that goes well, you're gonna present it to the finance team next Thursday. Yeah, that sounds right. Okay. And after that, like, do you guys sign the contract and say, oh, no, legal has to look at it too? Well, great. How long does legal typically take to look at this? Well, they normally need about 2 weeks. Is there anything that we could do to speed it up? I don't want you guys to, be so delayed on this. Well, if we really tell them it's a priority, legal can probably do it in 10 days. Okay, great. So meeting this Thursday, finance meeting a week later, and then 10 days for legal. Does that sound right? Yeah, if we can do all that, then we'd buy the software. Okay, great. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just take a note of all these dates, and I'm gonna be following up with you just to check in. See, hey, do you need anything from me to make that happen? Is there anything that I can provide to make your life easier? Because I want us to be on the same team. I want to be making sure that if this is something that makes sense for you guys, I am actually giving you everything you need to make it super easy. Does that sound good? And at this point, they'll probably say, yeah, that sounds great. Now, let's just take a step back and look at what I've done here in this little role play that I made up on the spot, if I'm being honest. What I've done is I've gone from, hey, your product sounds great, let me think about it, to here are the exact 3 steps that it will take to go from this meeting to buying it. Here are the dates that it will happen on so that you can hold them accountable to those steps. Thursday, you email them and say, hey, did the meeting happen? No, things got busy. Okay, when will it happen? And you adjust that, but you hold them accountable to these steps. By doing this, you're not forcing them. Like, it's not like I went to the prospect and said, here's the 3 steps I think you should do to buy our product. They gave me those steps. I'm just being on their team. I'm walking with them and saying, let me make sure that I make those 3 steps easy for you. And this follow-up and holding people accountable to these steps and timeline that they have outlined is how you actually win things over. There's a saying, sales is made in the follow-up. Well, this is your follow-up plan, but get them to define it and then hold them accountable. It's so simple, but I'm telling you, 99% of people completely screw this up, and that's why they don't get the results they want. And the last persuasion secret is to ask for the no. You see, sometimes the quickest and most effective way to get to the yes you want is to ask for a no. This comes up when that person is not responding to your emails or your phone calls, or they said they would do something, but they're kind of flaking on it. And in this moment where they've kind of gone cold on you, that's when the human nature is to say, let me back off a little bit. I'm pushing them too much. I don't want to upset them. What if they were gonna say yes, they were gonna maybe go on that second date, but I've asked too much, and so if I ask again, they're gonna say, you know what, you're being too needy, you're being too pushy, I think we should just, part ways. That is the big fear that we have in this moment. But this is actually the worst thing you can do. If you just leave the door open, if you just give them infinite space, they might actually be a yes, but they're scared to tell you. They might be on your side, but there's just something that's holding them up. This is when you want to ask for the no. What you actually want to do is reach out to them. You can do it over email, over phone, whatever, and say, hey, listen, we've been having some chats. I think things were going well, but I've noticed that the dynamic has changed. You seem to be a little busy, a little distracted, whatever. Hey, I totally get it. Out of respect, I'm gonna assume that we're not moving forward. And this could be, maybe use a little less formal language if it's for a date, or, more formal if it's for a serious business meeting, but you're just saying, like, I'm assuming that this is sort of the end of the road for us, that we're not moving forward. This is just me reading the signals. If I've missed the signals and you actually do want to move forward, let me know. Happy to pick things up where we left. Otherwise, I'm going to sort of close out this chapter and keep going. What this does is a few things. One, that fear that you had, that you didn't want to push them too much, and maybe they were a yes, but you accidentally are too needy and now they're a no. Well, you're not pushing them. What you're doing is you're graciously and politely giving them the space to say no if they were always a no. If they were already a no and they just didn't want to hurt your feelings, they didn't want to tell you, they will graciously accept your offer of the no and they'll say, yeah, you know what, you're right. I think things, priorities changed or whatever, we're going to go a different way. But if they were a maybe, or maybe even a yes, but they hadn't told you yet, by bringing up the no, it triggers a loss aversion in their mind. They will feel like that maybe has now become a no, and they'll feel that gap. They're still in the maybe column, but it's a no. And they're like, no, I don't like that feeling of getting this removed from me. So they will come back and they will say, yes, no, I do really want to do this. My most powerful experience of asking for the no to actually get a yes came from when I was raising investment money for my startup. I had reached out to this big wig investor, manages about $6.5 billion. And of course it gets funneled to his executive assistant, and his executive assistant replies and says, hey, so-and-so's busy. Here's their schedule 3 months out from now. Let me know which time you want to meet. And I looked at it and I was like, this is a load of crap. There's no way this guy is so busy that he can't meet with me when I was introduced to him by a friend for 3 months. Our fundraising round is not gonna take 3 months. This just doesn't work. So what I did is I emailed the investor directly, and I CC'd his executive assistant so that it doesn't feel like I'm going around his executive assistant. That kind of feels a little nasty. But I emailed him and I said, listen, your EA just sent me over your schedule. She's been great. But it looks like you're fully booked for the next 3 months. Our timeline for fundraising doesn't work on that timeline. Like, we are gonna be able to close this thing in the next couple weeks. We already have investors leaning in. We're expecting term sheets in a week or two. I don't think we're gonna be able to work together on this investment round. So if you don't have time to meet, no worries, but why don't we just, kick the meeting and we'll stay in touch and, maybe we'll work together in future rounds. But if anything changes, let me know. I'm here. Maybe 30 minutes, the investor emailed me back and said, hey, listen, I really do want to meet. Are you free this Thursday? And at the time he was actually in Hawaii with his wife, and he's like, I will fly back. Let's grab breakfast and let's talk about your company. And he literally, I feel bad for his wife, but he flew back from Hawaii directly to San Francisco, met with me at this pretty swanky 5-star hotel. He bought me brunch because, again, frame control, I'm the one vetting him. I'm the one who said no, and now he's trying to win back a yes. And he ended up putting about $1.6 million in my company. And it all came from the power of asking for the no to get the yes you want. Now, if you want to learn more of these secrets and some of the life lessons that I've learned from building a $110 million company in my 20s, I just filmed a video called 13 Life Lessons from Building a $110 million company in my 20s. Put the link over there, click that. I'm sure you're gonna love it.